Hey, it's me, Professor Dan Sheehan, your Sound for Visual Media professor, and also welcome anyone that randomly finds this on YouTube. We're going to talk about the finishing touches for the first project in the class, which is a radio trailer for a movie, TV show, or video game. And this is using the Star Wars example that I've used in class. A few things to bear in mind before you decide you're done with the project. Let's go to the mix window. I'm going to hit Command and the plus equals key to go to the mix window. Just make sure you have balanced the various tracks in your project. You might not have as many tracks as I do here, but make sure that you have set the volumes of each track to the appropriate level. Back to the edit window, just a reminder that you can also adjust clip volumes by grabbing the little icon in the lower left of a clip and adjusting that if you just need to adjust one clip as opposed to the entire track. Another thing to be aware of is don't forget you can pan things to the left and the right. These two pan controls here are two characters that are having a back and forth exchange. So one is pan left and one is pan right. So it just sounds like they're coming from different parts of the screen. If one of them was creating a sound effect, I would pan that similarly. Generally, your music will be a stereo file, which you can just keep pan hard left and right. Some of your sound effects, many of them, actually most of them might be also stereo effects, and you can either keep them pan hard left and right, or if you want to balance them more to one side than the other, you can do that by how you arrange the two pan controls that you'll find on a stereo track. Another thing to think about is, do you need any automation, particularly for this project, volume automation? Over here I have, this is some music. I'll play this a moment in the context of the scene.
Do it. I will kill you, then pass my soul into your body, granddaughter. And you will die, granddad.
And you can see there that, and you can see in here that the volume does drop where the line is dropping. We've kind of established things with the music at that point and want to focus more on the dialogue and the sound effects that are going on. So you may find that you need to do this type of volume automation. In order to do it on the screen, you need to make sure the track is in the volume mode rather than the waveform edit mode. And then you can use the grabber tool to put in these keyframes or breaking points, and you can drag the line around. You can hit Option and then click on one of them to delete one. You can delete a whole bunch by selecting them and pressing delete. You also can use the trim tool if there's an area that you want to adjust and keep your previous automation proportionate but lower it or raise it. You can do that by selecting an area and then using the trim tool to raise or lower everything within your selection. So those are some things that you probably should have going on in your projects before you decide that you're done. Once you do decide you're done, the way you're going to submit it is you're going to use a file function under the file menu called bounce to disk. When you click on bounce to disk, it's going to take your multi-track session and convert it to a stereo left-right wave file. So to make sure that is what it does, you want to choose wave for the file type. You want to choose interleaved so that you have stereo left-right information in the same file. Multiple mono will actually give you a separate left file and a separate right file, and mono summed will collapse everything to a mono mix where everything's the same on the left and right channel. Keep your bit depth and sample rate at this point for what they are already set for the project. It should automatically put those amounts. If you're not sure, you can go to the setup menu and look at the session option, and you'll see that your session, what sample rate and bit depth it's at. Before you bounce to disk, it's important to define the beginning and end of your project. Otherwise, it might not know that it's supposed to end the file. In this case, this is the end of our project where this music fades out here. So we want to make sure it ends exactly there. So right now I'm going to define the endpoint. I could either just kind of click over here with the selector tool, or a really precise way to do it is while I'm within this clip, I can hit the tab key and the selector tool will go to the next clip boundary, which is in this case the end of my project. This will not work if you have a button up here by the tools. There's a button I'm going to turn on and off. So you can see that's called tab to transient. Tab to transient makes the tab key behave a bit differently. So with that off, it will do what I want and jump to the end of the clip. At this point, I'm going to set what's called a marker or a memory location for the end. If I have a full keyboard with a numeric keypad, I can hit the enter key on the lower right side of it. Right now I'm on a laptop with no numeric keypad, so I'm going to hit the function key on the lower left of my keyboard and the enter return key, and it brings up a window to create a memory location. I'm going to call this end. Just to show you a little something, I'm going to click on, this is something I sometimes set, is zoom settings and track heights. So you'll see what that does in a moment. Before we bounce to disk, I want to show you under the Windows menu there's a memory locations window, and I already have a couple of memory locations before the one I just made. One is called Sabers, so when I click that, it's going to jump me over to the marker on the timeline called Sabers. If I go to scene 2, it'll take me right there. So the markers are used for quickly getting to a spot that you may need to, keep going back to and working on. Now I'm going to click on the end and watch what happens with the track heights and the zoom level. Okay, the track heights got bigger and the zoom level. That's because when I created this memory location, also known as a marker, I had set for the zoom settings and track heights. So that's something you can choose to do or not to do. I'm going to need a start marker. I'm going to press the return key on the keyboard, which will return me to 0 on the timeline. And that's exactly where I want to be, because the way I've been working, my project does start right at the very beginning. In some cases, your project might not start at the beginning of the timeline, and you may have to, for example, use the tab key to get to the first clip. But I'm going to go ahead and hit function, enter, and just call this start. So another thing that markers or memory locations are good for is you can select between them. So I could, for example, click on the Sabers and then hold down shift and click on scene 2, and it will select between those two markers. So if I select start and then shift select on end, it's now got my entire project highlighted from beginning to end. Now when I bounce to disk, it knows when to start and when to stop. So let's go up to File, Bounce to Disk. And these are all the right settings I want. Wave format, that's going to be a high quality format as opposed to MP3, which would not be. Stereo interleaved, same bit depth and sample rate as my session. It's important that you name this the correct thing. So I have my name and the project number listed here. And it's important to know where this is going. By default, if you look at the file path here, it'll go in your session folder in another folder called bounced files. So that's fine, or you may want to direct it to your desktop or however you want to do. But I'm going to go ahead now and click bounce. I'm going to make sure the offline is checked off, otherwise it'll take much longer to bounce. It'll actually play back the whole thing from the beginning, and I'm feeling confident about the project, so I don't need to hear it again. I'm just going to bounce it at high speed by clicking offline. Alright, so I'm clicking on bounce. I had already bounced this before, so it's asking if I want to replace it. I'll say yes. It probably will not ask that unless you are doing a second bounce of the same thing. Alright, so now let's take a look at where this is. I'm going into my Finder. On my desktop, I have a folder. If I go to Bounce Files, there's what I just bounced. What you're going to do is you're going to submit that bounce to my Google Drive. Let's look up my Google Drive here. So this is my Google Drive, and you at one point received a link giving you access to the folder called S for VM, Sound for Visual Media. So what you actually want to do is go into the Fall 2020 Project Submission folder, submit Project 1 Stereo Bounces, and upload your file to there. Mine's already actually uploaded from previously, but you can go where it says New, click that plus sign, and say File Upload, and direct things to your file, and go ahead and upload it. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and I look forward to hearing all your projects.